Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to Kourou, the home of the Ariane family, for today's live broadcast of Ariane spaceflight number 225, an international launch for two old friends tonight with Eutelsat and Intelsat. Joshua Jampool here, coming to you live, as usual, from the Jupiter Mission Control Center here at the Guyana Space Base. We will be bringing you all the action in this seventh launch of the year for Arianespace, so we hope you will stay with us. All is green for the moment. Another international mission tonight, as Ariane 5 waits patiently on the pad for her moment in the sun. We can take a close look at her. She stands 54 meters tall, weighs about 775 tons, and is in two parts, a lower composite and an upper one. The lower composite includes the main core stage and the two boosters, so 3 power sources. The boosters, you can see standing on either side, are 31 meters tall. The upper component includes the single upper stage engine, also the vehicle equipment bay where the computers are, and the fairing inside, which are the 2 satellites. We'll describe each of these stages in detail while they're functioning, so you can follow Ariane as she makes her way across the Atlantic, and we'll have more on the 2 satellites as well. The launch window tonight, an hour 45, so plenty of time. Launch time will be 17:10 local, 16:10 on the U.S. East, and 22:10 Paris. Some of the key players who make the mission happen: this is the Arianespace High Command, the Flight Directorate. Stefan Israel you saw. With him, Louis Laurent, who's the Senior VP for Programs. Edward Perez, the top technical officer for Ariane and the living technical memory of all flights. And rounding out the team, Patrick Loire, who heads up Arianespace Kourou facilities here. These are the top 4. In our first film tonight, a look at our upper passenger, Eutelsat 8 West B. We'll be hearing first from Arianespace's Beatrice Romero.
Flight 225 of the Ariane launch vehicle will carry on the upper position Eutelsat 8 West B, which will be the 30th satellite launched by Arianespace for the telecommunications operator Eutelsat.
I'm pleased to make this video today because I know that when you will be watching it, we will be at the end of almost 3 years of efforts by the teams of Eutelsat, Thales Alenia Space, Arianespace, and Centre Spatial Guyanais, who have been involved in the design, construction, test and preparation of EAWB for launch. EAWB is one of the more sophisticated television satellites ever built for Eutelsat. It will reinforce Eutelsat in-orbit resources at 7-8 degrees west, which is one of the most dynamic in the global satellite TV market, with more than 52 million homes in North Africa and in the Middle East.
We would like to thank Eutelsat for the confidence and loyalty, and we will see you soon for the next launch campaign.
7th launch of the year tonight, as Stefan Israel said, and the 7th in 7 months for Arianespace. It's also the 4th of the year for the Ariane 5, with plenty more coming up in the second half of the year, which promises to be just as busy.
Arianespace is very proud to be once again involved in the deployment of a new satellite for Intelsat and to contribute to the expansion of this major operator.
It's great to be back here in Kourou for another launch campaign. This is my 6th campaign here in the last 7 years, and I can say without a doubt, this has been the smoothest of all these campaigns. And for that, I would like to thank SSL MBA, Arianespace, CSG, and our friends at Freelance for making our stay here in Kourou a pleasant one.
Intelsat 34 will be respectively the 55th Intelsat satellite and 51st SSL satellite to be launched with an Ariane vehicle.
We are approaching a key moment in the launch countdown. It's the synchronized sequence, or the automatic sequence. You'll hear the voice of the range operations manager call out the milestone. It's this man here, Antoine Guillaume. The range operations manager, also called the DDO.
À tous de DDO, arrêt du décompte suite à un rouge ensemble de lancement. Que tous les moyens restent prêts pour la reprise de la chronologie de 0-7 minutes, des retours au vert.
All right, you heard Antoine de Guillaume say we have a hold in the countdown. You can see it's red on the 7-minute mark. And I don't know, when you have a shot of Jupiter, you can see in the very back on the green status panels in the back of the hall, you see it's also red there. And the next time the camera comes up, we'll mention that. But normally, when things are green, we proceed through to the synchronized sequence. We are holding on the synchronized sequence now. Antoine Guillaume said we have a red on the ensemble de lancement. You can see it there, ensemble de lancement, which means the entire overall base. So no idea what the problem might be, but we are holding. The green status panels there are a green, red, no, and go resume of everything it takes to launch. And when things are green, we go. Whenever there's a red, we stop, which is the case now. So the DDO also said to be ready to restart the countdown soon. So they're holding. What happens when they're holding? It's quite a normal situation. It gives us time to sort out any problems. It's like a stop sign in your car. What's happening now is all the teams are looking at the parameters, looking at why there is a hold, analyzing them. And while this is going on, the launcher goes into a safe configuration, so it'll be ready to go.
À tous de DDO, retour au vers des moyens ELA. Attention pour la reprise de la chronologie.
The DDO, as you heard, has said we can resume the countdown.
Début de la séquence finale lanceur. Le nouvel âge zéro visé est 20h34 et 1 minute. Et 1 seconde.
Okay, so
Je répète, le nouvel âge zéro visé est 20h34 et 1 seconde.
Okay, well, the DDO has set us going again. You can see the clock is ticking. And we're going to show you how Ariane 5 was put together in her launch campaign. Back with more in a moment. Some parts of Ariane 5 come to French Guiana by ship from Europe. They then travel by road to the space base where their assembly begins in the launcher integration building. The lower stage is erected vertically, and the 2 solid boosters are transported to this building and positioned on either side. Then the upper stage is integrated onto the lower stage. At this point, Ariane is moved to the final assembly building. The satellites also follow a preparation campaign. It's carried out in parallel with assembly of the launch vehicle in facilities dedicated to satellite operations. Special teams work in clean rooms, weighing and testing everything from electric cables to solar panels. With these tests completed, the satellites are then filled with fuel. The satellites, in their turn, then move to the final assembly building for what's called combined operations and are mated atop the launcher. Intelsat 34 was put in place first in the lower position, then Eutelsat 8 West B was enclosed, fairing which was hoisted atop the launcher. In all, a campaign takes 6 weeks to ready both launcher and satellites. During the campaign, Arianespace and customer teams meet daily to monitor all activities. At a final launch readiness review on August 18th, these teams gave the green light for the launcher to be rolled out to her position on the pad. Fixed to the launch table, here Ariane 5 awaits the final countdown and the start of her mission. Gives you an idea of some of the complex procedures that must be carried out for each launch here. Each campaign is different because the passengers change, but generally the campaign follows the same procedures.
Top H0 moins 1 minute.
All that's left to explain is the final ignition sequence. It starts when the yellow arms pull back. Remember to watch for that. That gets the ball rolling. And then watch for this. At H0, the DDO will call out allumage volcan. That's the ignition of the main stage, the cryogenic engine. But we don't lift off yet. There will be a 7-second wait while the onboard computer checks the performance of the engine. It does this twice. If all is well, it gives the order to light the 2 solid boosters, and we go. We will let you watch liftoff of Arianespace flight number 225, Eutelsat 8 West B and Intelsat 34. Final countdown.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP, décollage. Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
So the arms swung back as scheduled. You saw it there. We had ignition, and you saw Ariane 5 begin her mission, rising off the ground here in French Guiana with a lot of fire, right on time, at little past the original launch window, because we have the hold in the countdown. But we're fine now. The DDO says everything is okay on board with our two passengers, Eutelsat 8 West B and Intelsat 34. We are underway. The boosters providing over 90% of the thrust, propelling the launcher along its trajectory at ever higher velocity, getting her pull to the Earth. And there's a lot to pull. Ariane's weight at liftoff, about 775 tons. Most of that's fuel. She's burning 5 tons of fuel every second, 2.5 tons in each booster, and the core stage burning another 300 kilos per second. Ariane now following the flight program in the onboard computer, which gives all the commands, including stage separations. We'll soon begin to see those. We are in the first of 4 flight phases. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn so you can follow Ariane as she heads across the Atlantic. Right now, the first flight phase, the Vulcan engine and the 2 boosters are burning. The boosters will burn their propellant in just under 2.5 minutes, about 20 seconds to go. And they'll be the first we jettison. You'll hear the DDO call out that milestone too. We're heading east over the Atlantic. The decision to build the site here in French Guiana made in the 60s when France wanted a new base, in part for its opening on the water, to allow for launches over uninhabited areas. On the animation, you saw the separation of the booster, so we've had that right on time. The confirmation by the DDO, right on time at about 79 kilometers up. You see what that looks like. The other booster out of camera range on the left. The onboard computer detects that there is no more fuel in the tanks. Nice shot of Ariane rising. The dot of light is the core stage still burning. As they have no more propellant to burn, the thrust decreases and the computer senses the drop in acceleration. Coming up next on separation of the fairing, you see the logos there that's placed there by the customers. That's something of a tradition. We said 79 kilometers altitude, roughly. You can see on the bottom left is our altitude, on the right is our speed. Sometimes the figure is not exactly what you see. I mean, that's normal. That's due to a slight delay or lag in the telemetry coming in here. We've had separation of the fairing right on time. You see Eutelsat exposed to the elements there. Separation of the fairing given by 2 pyrotechnic systems, one horizontal and one vertical. These are cords that actually remove the fairing by a small contained explosion. We emphasize it's controlled, so there's no threat to the vehicle. We can separate the fairing now because we're out of the dense layers of the atmosphere at over 100 kilometers up. You can see what the jettison of the fairing looks like. There's another half on the right side out of camera range. Above 100 kilometers, there's neither friction nor heating, which could disturb the passengers. Liftoff's very noisy, and a noisy affair which shakes the launcher up. We could also discard any dead weight when possible to maximize the launcher's operation. We can do that now. The fairing weighs over 2 tons. We are in the second powered flight phase. The boosters have done their work. Only the single engine burning now. It'll burn for about 9 minutes in all. Our speed is important at this moment, and that's the role of the main stage. Its cryogenic propellant system is not only highly efficient, but provides a push that can last for a long time, like 9 minutes. There are different propulsion systems on the Ariane 5. Cryogenics, as used in the main stage, are more efficient than solid propellant, which is used in the boosters. Basically, solids are for getting us off the ground, away from the pull of the Earth. Cryogenics for more precision orienting of the vehicle, and they can allow for a stage to be reignited in another version of Ariane. We're going to go to a replay of the liftoff that happened just 5 minutes ago, so you can relive those exciting moments. Coming up, Ariane 5 is the heavy lift launcher. The other two members of the family, Soyuz, lifts middle-sized payloads, 2 and 3 tons, and Vega, the light lift vehicle, for 1-ton missions. Here's the replay. You can see from another angle. It's always exciting to live these moments of liftoff. We have cameras at several of the half-dozen observation sites that are stationed across the base. There's another one. It's a big one. It's a big base, 750 square kilometers, about the size of the island of Martinique, our neighbor, if you know Martinique. And these observation sites furnish us with shots from different angles. People also line the beaches to watch the launch, where the view is also quite good. Here's another angle. The closest observation site is called Toucan, and many of the VIPs are out there now. Toucan is closest to the base, about 4 kilometers. Ariane 5's liftoff there lights up the whole place. I don't know if you've ever seen it from there, but it's really something to watch. We should have more replay shots, including from Toucan, at the end of the broadcast. Some figures. The two passengers tonight are the 164th and 165th satellites to be launched on an Ariane 5. They're also the 318th and 319th to go into geostationary transfer orbit. 2 minutes to go, roughly, in the lower stage burn. On the right is Eutelsat, exposed to the elements. Under that, the black bell-shaped structure, that's called the Silda. That's a carrying structure that allows us to lift a second passenger. And underneath the black Silda is our second passenger, Intelsat 34. Underneath that is the vehicle equipment bay, and the long tube is the first stage, whose engine will be cut off in about a minute, and the first stage will be separated shortly after that, and we'll be into the second half of the mission when the second stage is lit. Our radar and telemetry signal has been picked up by our first downrange tracking station. That's over the border in Brazil at a place called Natal. Natal will see the lower stage burnout and separation at 8 minutes and 51 seconds, as well as the upper stage ignition. All of Ariane's trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground. The launcher is sending radar and telemetry back, and a network of stations keeps constant watch on the health of her systems. Telemetry is launch vehicle data, basically. Information on about 1,500 parameters now being collected and transmitted back to the ground stations every second. These include indicators of Ariane's health and performance, and they come from pressure and temperature sensors, which record all of her functions throughout the flight. There you saw the shut-off of the lower stage engine. And we'll have in a moment, there it is, the separation of the first stage. And there you saw the engine light up on the second stage. 3 commands given by the onboard computer in 12 seconds. The main stage will fall into the Atlantic. You can see that's what's happening above. Will fall off the coast of Africa. Up in space, all is well aboard Ariane 5. Our speed, as you can see, approaching 7 kilometers per second, and our altitude approaching 200 kilometers. We're We're now into the third and final powered flight phase. It's a 16-minute burn for the upper stage. Will burn until 24 minutes and 54 seconds. The upper stage, about the size of a small studio apartment, and its job is to take the satellites to their injection point. It also positions them for separation and then releases them into space. With ignition of the upper stage, the second half of the mission. We'll look more closely at the satellites. Eutelsat's fleet providing 5,800 TV channels that are received in over 270 million homes worldwide. Ariane 5 carrying Eutelsat West, Eutelsat 8 West B, and Intelsat 34, the world's leader in launch operations tonight, lifting satellites for two of the world's leaders in satellite communications. Arianespace orbits telecom satellites, but also satellites with many other missions. Rafi Moussalian, CTO of Eutelsat, retiring after 30 years. Been at Eutelsat since 1985. We mentioned many other missions. The first flights of 2015 show how the Ariane family of launchers is a good fit for all of today's space applications, technology, navigation, telecom, civil and military, private and public operators.
SSL, the world's leading manufacturer of commercial satellites, built Intelsat 34 for Intelsat, the leading provider of satellite services worldwide. Intelsat 34 will meet the growing demand for direct-to-home television and media distribution services in Latin America, and it will provide broadband for maritime and aeronautical companies serving the North Atlantic. The satellite is based on the powerful and highly reliable SSL 1300 platform. With 79 SSL 1300 satellites on orbit today, it is the world's most widely used satellite model. This is a result of its established reputation for quality and its versatility to support a broad range of applications and innovative technology advances. Intelsat 34 uses SSL's flight-proven electric propulsion system, which is actively in use on 17 satellites with more than 40,000 hours of successful on-orbit operation. Intelsat 34 is the 50th satellite that SSL has built for Intelsat and represents a long-standing partnership between the companies. That partnership is built on trust and has lasted more than 30 years, with nearly half the satellites in the Intelsat fleet designed and built by SSL. SSL would like to thank Intelsat for its confidence over the many years, and it also thanks Arianespace, which has worked with SSL on more than 50 launches. With Intelsat 34, the SSL team, together with its partners, once again has demonstrated its commitment to provide a satellite destined for success.
Acquisition of our final tracking station at Malindi, Kenya, due right about now on the east coast of Africa. There we are, picked up by Malindi. Ariane 5 crossing Africa in about 5 minutes. The station will see the upper stage burnout and both satellite separations and the end of the Ariane mission. Ariane Space has launched 48 satellites built by SSL and its predecessors. Another 13 in the manifest, including Intelsat 36 and Eutelsat 65 West A. Currently, SSL with 79 satellites operating in orbit. Company founded in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1957 as a division of Philco. Maybe some of you remember that, the Americans out there. Philco began launching satellites in 1960. We're coming up on cutoff of the upper stage engine in less than a minute. We will have extinction of the upper stage. The satellites will be separated when the launcher is moving at between 8 and 9 kilometers per second. Why? Well, it's close to the speed at which the Earth turns, 10 kilometers per second. That's also 36,000 kilometers an hour. Once they are released by Ariane, the satellites can get to that speed and to their proper altitude by firing their apogee motors. These motor firing, their early operations, usually occurring in the first few days after separation. We'll be back with more on that. And then once at this speed, they are capable of producing coverage over a specific geographic area because they're in what is called the geostationary orbit. They appear to hover over one region, but they're actually flying at the same speed as the Earth. On the animation, you saw the cutoff of the upper stage.
Extinction de l'ESC sur commande de guidage.
And the DDO has just confirmed it. You see our speed in the lower right, 9.3 kilometers per second. That's about the top speed. Emmanuel Macron, the French economic minister, on hand tonight, and we'll be hearing from him after the mission. Uses small thrusters to perform the maneuvers. You can see them popping on and off there. They have quite a job to do in the next 8 minutes or so. What they must do is orient the first satellite, orient the composite, I should say. There's Rafi. That is a spring, an Ariane 5 spring, which he was presented with this morning for his retirement, because he's launched over 25 satellites, I think. So they gave him a spring as a memento. He was very moved. Then they have to start a second series of maneuvers to orient and separate the Silda in another direction at another altitude. And they have to do the same for the lower passenger. Eutelsat 8 West B due to be separated at about 1,100 kilometers up, coming up. And the Silda at 1,500 kilometers, and Intelsat 34 at 4,200 kilometers. And there we've had confirmation, and you can see it on the screen, of separation of our first passenger, Eutelsat 8 West B, right on time. The first good news, you see the people in the hall here pretty much holding their applause very politely until the second passenger goes. The early operation maneuvers, as Ariane is being spun up the Silda, First telemetry acquisition about 21 minutes from now, after separation, by the Kumsan station in South Korea. There will be 3 apogee motor firings between tomorrow and 5 days after launch. Final deployment and final orbit acquisition in about 6 days, and she will be in service beginning of October. While we have a minute, a quick minute, the quiz question concerns the builders. All right, listen up, everybody. Eutelsat and Intelsat, though they have flown with Arianespace collectively 85 times, have never flown together before. But the builders have. So the quiz question, number 225. When was the last time Thales Alenia Space and Space Systems Loral flew together on an Ariane mission? Give you a hint, it's not that long ago. See if anybody out there can get this one. When was the last time Thales Alenia Space and SSL shared an Ariane flight? We'll give you the answer in a minute. While you're thinking, the ballistics phase continues. We have had, if you just joined us, successful separation of our first passenger, Eutelsat 8 West B. We're waiting now for the next step, which is separation of the Silda. That's due up in about 10 seconds. That's the black bell-shaped structure, I should say, just above the white part. The white part is the vehicle equipment bay where the computers are. When the Silda is pushed away from the mothership, we will see Intelsat 34. You see that happening.
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane.
So you see Intelsat facing the elements, awaiting her separation. Another 10 minutes to go for her separation. And when Intelsat 34 is released at 41:51, that will mark the end of the first part of the ballistics phase. Silda separated out over the Indian Ocean, as will Intelsat 34B. We're still in the what they call the space ballet. We're in the pointing up phase required by Intelsat 34 for its separation. Remember the Silda, the carrying structure that allows us to lift a second passenger. We've used the Silda, or an earlier form of it, well over 100 times. Double launches being the Ariane specialty. There are 6 versions of the Silda, varying sizes. This one measures just under 6 meters tall. Separation marks an end as well as a beginning. It's the end of the launch vehicle's mission for the satellite, but also marks the start of the satellite's own life. And the Eutelsat people now getting to work before separation of our second passenger. And you'll see she'll be pushed away from the mothership like Eutelsat was. And you'll hear the DDO calling out that confirmation. You can see our altitude. We're approaching the 45 kilometers. And our speed, you see, has dropped to 7 meters. Waiting for confirmation.
Séparation de la charge utile Intelsat 34.
And there you have it, the final good news. Ariane 5 has successfully separated her second passenger, Intelsat 34, and right on time. So from those intense moments just minutes ago, you can see the change here in Jupiter. You heard the applause, the hugs, the cigars will be forthcoming. Very buoyant all across the Space Center and at all the points and posts where people are following the launcher and the satellite. Work is just beginning. Some are dancing at, or soon will be, at the different ground stations at Intelsat 34 and other sites around the world. Her first maneuvers, first acquisition should come 5 minutes after separation. The Intelsat and the SSL people very happy. Within 2 hours, we'll begin the solar array deployment. The arrays will be fully deployed tomorrow, and when fully deployed, they measure 25 meters across. 4 apogee motor firings from tomorrow through to 4 days from now. Orbit raising will take 6 days. Start of in-orbit testing in 10 days and in-service beginning of October. While we're waiting for the speeches, did you get the answer to the quiz question? Our 2 passengers have never flown on an Ariane mission before, but the builders have. When was the last time Thales Alenia Space and SSL flew together on an Ariane mission? I said it wasn't that long ago. In fact, it was the last launch. Flight 224, July 15th. An Ariane 5 orbited Star 1C4 built by Space Systems Loral. And MSG4 for Eutelsat built by Thales Alenia Space. Before that was also this year, Flight 222, April, Norway's Thor 7 SSL, and the French-Italian defense satellite Seacral 2, Thales Alenia Space. So give yourself a round of applause if you got the answers right, and you get to watch a launch replay, which will be coming up in a moment. No doubt, extending, receiving congratulations, shaking hands all around. Here's your replay. Stefan Israel.
Messieurs les ministres, Monsieur le Préfet, Mesdames et Messieurs les élus de Guyane, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests,
members from French Guiana.
Arianespace is delighted to announce that Eutelsat 8 West B and Intelsat 34 were separated as planned on the targeted optimized geostationary orbit. Arianespace to celebrate tonight Ariane 5's 67th success in a row with the first two commercial customers of our heavy lift vehicle, Eutelsat and Intelsat. I now switch to French. You will see the difference, maybe not.
Well, we will say goodbye over a final launch replay coming up of Arianespace flight number 225. Goodbye from French Guiana, where Ariane 5 has once again delivered two new satellites beginning life, Eutelsat 8 West B and Intelsat 34, the 513th and 514th satellites launched by Arianespace since its career began in 1980. Congratulations to everybody. That makes 67 straight successful launches for Ariane 5. She has launched nearly 60% of the global market today, and she keeps on rolling. Next launch, as Stefan Israel said, September 10th with the Soyuz. We'll be here. We hope you will be too. Until then, Joshua Jample, on behalf of everyone here at the Space Base, saying thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to being with you next time. Goodbye, everybody.